Alright guys, here's your lesson on section 8.1, distance and midpoints. The first thing that we are looking at is calculating the midpoint between these 2 points. So when you're finding the midpoint, just following this, you're going to add your x-coordinates, divide by 2, add your y-coordinates, and divide by 2. So if I were to add my x-coordinates here, divide by 2, add my y-coordinates, divide by 2, that's going to give me the midpoint between these 2 points. So 4 plus negative 2 over 2 is 1. Negative 7 plus 3 over 2 is negative 2. So 1, negative 2 is the midpoint between those 2 points. And you do the same thing for letter B. So I'm going to go ahead and add my x-coordinates, divide by 2, add my y-coordinates, divide by 2. So my x-coordinate ends up being 5 plus negative 7 over 2 is negative 1. Negative 11 plus 6 is negative 5 over 2. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as negative 5 halves. If you want to change that to a decimal, you can. It would be negative 2.5. For letter C, I have segment MN has midpoint P. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my segment MN. That way we can have a visual with midpoint P. So M has coordinates 14, negative 3. P has coordinates negative 8, 6, and we want to find the coordinates of N. So since we don't know the coordinates of N, I'm going to go ahead and label that as X and Y. Now normally when you find the midpoint between these 2 points, M and N, you would add your X coordinates, divide by 2, add your Y coordinates, and divide by 2. Now we're given the midpoint, so we can use that information to figure out what X and Y are. So if I were to take my X coordinates of M and N, add them together and divide by 2, it should equal the x-coordinate of my midpoint, which was negative 8. So from here I can use that to solve for x. Multiply both sides by 2, gives you negative 16. Subtract 14 from both sides and we get x equals negative 30. Use that same idea to solve for y. So if I were to take my y-coordinates and divide by 2, that should equal 6. So I have negative 3 plus y equals 12, because I multiplied by 2 to get rid of my fraction, and I get y equals 15. So my ordered pair for n is going to be negative 30, 15. There's practice problems on the next slide. I'm not actually going to go through these, but if you want to see the answers for these, there's an answer key posted on my website for all the notes for Chapter 8. Using the distance formula, you're just plugging into the distance formula. So I have the square root of x2 minus x1, so x2 minus x1, quantity squared, plus y2 minus y1, quantity squared, and then from there you're just simplifying. So that gives me negative 14 squared plus negative 6 squared. So that's 196 plus 36, which gives me the square root of 232. For this particular section, instead of simplifying the radical, we're going to go ahead and approximate the decimal, and that gives me approximately 15.23. And you do the same thing for letter B. So I'm subtracting my x-coordinates, squaring it, plus subtracting my y-coordinates, squaring it, and then simplifying. So that gives me 2 squared plus 6 squared. So that's 4 plus 36. So I'm looking at the square root of 40, which I'm going to go ahead and simplify for a decimal approximation, which gives me approximately 6.32. And the next slide just has practice problems. Again, if you want to see the answers to these, you can look at my website on my notes. I would recommend trying this extra challenge problem, see if you can figure it out. Draw a picture. It's probably helpful. But yeah, that's it for your lesson, just distance and midpoints. When I was telling you that section 8.1 wasn't a difficult section, I wasn't lying. But your homework assignment is from the textbook, so you're doing the odds for all of these. So 11 through 19 odd, 25 through 31 odd, and then 43 and 44. All right, guess that's it. See you in class.